Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas.
Thanks very much for watching. Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date, it is, September 2nd of 2022, and it is almost 5 a.m. in the morning. Earlier today, well, yesterday, I guess it was yesterday, I, very rarely do I do it, but I went to the utility section for YouTube, where you can check and see how many people are tuning in, how long they're staying, how much money you're making, and all that. Just tremendous. They give you a tremendous amount of information. There's also I'm not sure if it's weekly or how often, there's a little podcast or thing that where somebody from YouTube tells you what's new. And I very rarely do I check it. I checked it today for a little bit, and they had 2 or 3 items to report. It's always short, but one was they announced that they now had podcast on YouTube, open to YouTube people who are doing YouTube videos and stuff. And it's actually up here, so it's podcast. So I clicked on it. And this, of course, is not what I saw. So this, a few hours ago, I clicked on it. And they had the worst people. I can't remember any of their names. I fucking hate these people. So they started a thing here, podcast. And I thought, because I've set up a podcast or two on another, some other of these sites that do podcast or whatever, and never got much, Of course, I didn't put much effort into it. Never got, much from it. But anyway, I clicked on podcast, and boom. You see the screen now filled here, because this is the podcast thing. And the screen was, well, I didn't check them all, and I don't know how many they had. But now I'm scrolling through here, and I don't see anything. I don't know. I know very few of the. They're okay. Different podcasts. That's what I expected. But when I did it a few hours ago, it must have been right after they announced that they had set it up, and I actually saw 2, but there was more of them. Podcast. And I don't remember these people's names, but they would be known if you're a YouTube person or into podcast or anything like that. If you follow the stupidity that goes on some podcast and things like that, you would recognize the names. The one, now I didn't see his site on there, but he was mentioned. Yeah, and that's the guy who was getting, and probably still is, tremendous numbers of hits and viewers. And of course, I don't think I ever even watched one of his podcasts, but a lot of other people did. he made the front page of CNN more than once. This is just a guy doing podcast. He's the guy who went to, he went to, let's see, he went to, kind of started out small. Some of these things that are like conventions or whatever, where people show up to see their favorite podcast person or their favorite YouTube person or something like that. And a lot of the YouTube people who do, they go to these kind of events. Well, I think it all kind of stopped with, when the virus came along. And they have some rules, of course, at these events. And I think for this one story, or event, he agreed that, of course, he would follow the rules about how many people he brought and different things. And as soon as he got there, of course, he didn't follow any of the rules, and it caused people to try to run to get to the other meeting room, or I don't know what all. It was just people knocking everybody else down, and the people who ran the event said, we're not sure we'll ever hold one of these events again, and how could so-and-so do this because he endangered people's lives and all that kind of stuff. So that was a minor thing, which made big news in the YouTube world and stuff. But then the next event or thing that I know about was he went, he's making a lot of money. He went to, I guess, Beverly Hills or Hollywood or someplace. I guess Beverly Hills area, whatever. And he bought a very, very, very expensive, the type of thing that movie stars. He bought the house, supposedly. And then he took his minion. He took those people with him, of course, out there. And, you're talking Beverly Hills. And he put floodlights outside in the yard. He played loud music, and of course there was drinking, going on, heavy drinking going on. But he played music all night long, blasting up, rattling the windows of the movie star, that are a block away or a few blocks away or something. That made CNN's, front page. And the Nixon, of course, he's doing this stuff all the time, just to generate viewers and that kind of stuff. And it worked for him, and it worked for the other people who were willing to do stuff like this, except he was pretty good at, doing it. Then he went to Japan with a few people, and he went directly to the forest in Japan. There's a forest there. I forget what it's called, but very dense. Very little people actually go to this forest, but a lot of people, Japanese people, go there to commit suicide. I think by hanging themselves from a tree or something. And I think there's signs up, in Japanese, maybe in other languages, hey, please don't do this. Or, please contact somebody if you need help or whatever. But he goes there with his people, and they actually find somebody who has hung himself and has been hanging there for a while. Nobody's found him. So he takes pictures, and I don't know what all he does. And then supposedly contacts authorities or whatever, and there's some question about that. And now that made front page of CNN, front page, I think probably around the world, and he got a lot of criticism, but I don't think he cares because he gets traffic, and that's all he cares about. Now the other guy on this podcast, or the guy, and I should know his name because I was following, what's his name? I followed him like when he very first began doing YouTube. I had more, when he started, I had more viewers than he did. But eventually he skyrocketed because he is way overweight. Well, he had bypass surgery eventually, but he was, way overweight, and he tells his story, to help people. Well, he wants traffic too, but he tells his story of, attempted suicides and problems that he has with mental illness, problems that that his mother had, and just, and I kind of followed the guy's history. Well, I'm not sure if he moved or if, well, I'm sure he moved, but I'm not sure how far he moved or but I think it was Oklahoma. He moved to Oklahoma. Anyway, of course, people started picking on, oh God, can't remember the name. People, of course, picked on him. I mean, if you're on YouTube or on the internet or whatever, if you have some type of an insecurity and some type of a problem, if you're overweight or underweight or no matter what it is, people, and unfortunately, a large number of people, they're going to zero in on that, and they're going to, if there's something that bothers you, they're going to use that against you in the worst possible ways, because all these other people are interested in it is causing you pain and agony, and if you express it, oh my God, you've made their day, and probably got some traffic to your site or whatever. Anyway, he moved to, I think, Arkansas or Oklahoma. I think Arkansas. Can't remember. So this guy who's been attacking him, and they've been like fighting back and forth. And I think even the victim in this case, he was fighting back. He was really upset. But at the same time, it was generating, people were going to see what was being said about this guy. And then they were going to see what this guy said back about the other guy. And then there was all types of stuff going on. So the guy that I saw when it was announced at YouTube, I got a notice, must have been the first day or the second day that it started. I got a thing that they now had podcast. Again, you can see it up here. Here, podcast. Yeah, there it is. But when I went to it a few hours ago, I was really devastated. They had these people, the worst people on whatever you want to call it, the World Wide Web, podcast, blogs, or whatever it is. They had the guy who went to Hollywood and created a disturbance that made front page CNN. Maybe it did make the front page, I forget, but so it was announced that there was podcasts. So I thought, okay, I better check that out, because I'd set up a few other podcasts, like I said, on other sites. It wasn't as, the stuff wasn't as good as YouTube, the options you had and all that kind of stuff. So I just kept doing my YouTube stuff, But I thought, wow, podcast, let's see how that works out with, because I thought, well, you could have your YouTube site, and then if you had a podcast, it'd be directly really linked into it, and there's probably some, stuff you could use, functions and things. And I thought, so I went there, and then the worst people, the two guys I just told you about, and others, all the ones, and I've heard of some of the other names too, of people, and they are the worst people in the world. And I thought, oh my God, how can, why would YouTube, do that? I mean, bring down the quality, bring down the, invite the crazy, lying people who, I'm not sure how many of them are crazy, but they're doing anything that they can do to get traffic. They fight with each other. Some of it is, planned. They appear on each other's, sometimes they appear on each other's, things to increase. And then there's, wow, so-and-so, is on so-and-so's show. That ought to be really good. These guys hate each other, whatever. So boom, there they were. And it was like the worst, especially the one was absolutely, boom, the worst person in the world, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know the person personally. I didn't really watch, but and so I was thinking, okay, this, I don't know why YouTube. Well, then I thought the worst of YouTube. Now YouTube is just positively doing it, for money, doing it to create, this kind of stuff. And I thought, why would they lower? They have a little bit of a standard. There are certain things they don't allow. And why would they do this like this? And I just couldn't. And I was just getting ready to go to bed. And I thought, well, I'll make a little, just a podcast. And, well, then I thought, no, I won't make a podcast on the YouTube, thing. I'll just do it in my regular, site on YouTube. But I thought, I'm going to call this out and say, I think this is just despicable, low, and just terrible that YouTube is now allowing this type of garbage and stupidity and insanity and circus type stuff. But I thought, well, I'll check it here before I go to bed. Boom. All that stuff from yesterday is gone. And I see the podcasts that are here now are people who, the Young Turks and Matt's Off-Road Recovery and the normal stuff. And maybe there'll be some other stuff. But so what happened is, I'm sure that YouTube announced, like I told you, because I saw it like yesterday, we now have podcasts. And some of these worst people, and the biggest, and who have a staff and everything else, popped it right on to, podcast, because it would be easy to do, very easy to do, because they have the video. And they wouldn't even have to, they just keep doing what they're doing wherever they are. I think probably in hell doing it, but I see that, YouTube probably didn't expect these people to take advantage of that. Probably thought they had some type of restraint, and they have no restraint. They'll do anything to get, viewers, and they create, conflict. I guess they probably get together and say, hey, why don't you attack me? And then why don't you attack? Then I'll attack you back using such and such. And I mean, it's all staged, but people love it, And but anyway, so I can feel better now, and I can relax. Probably go to sleep now. But I was really upset that they would do. I should have known, that they wouldn't want that type of content on YouTube. They wouldn't allow that type of name calling. Did I mention that? In fact, this is a guy that a few hours ago, when I clicked on podcast, his is a site that popped up. I can't remember his name, but he's the guy. He's the guy that was attacking. How can I not remember this guy's name? He was a guy who was attacking the overweight guy who he had attempted suicide several times, his mother, molested him. But anyway, he would, you know, he'd talk about his problems and make recommendations on his podcast. I remember when he started. In fact, he found me. He was just starting out and found me, and I forget what he said. That he liked my site, or that was I can't remember. But so I followed him from time to time, and then I saw, of course, him getting into disputes, and I think a lot of that was staged, but got out of control, out of his control. And the other, so anyway, the guy whose thing was on for a few minutes, I guess, yesterday, he's the guy who, I don't know where he's located, because I never watched his thing, but occasionally something would pop up about it. But Boogie, okay, I finally remembered. Boogie is his YouTube name. But I think he does a lot of stuff. He got a lot of hate, and he moved on to other sites. I don't know which ones, whichever ones there are over there. And but still popped back to do stuff about YouTube from time to time. Anyway, this guy whose site popped up yesterday under podcast, he's the guy that was attacking Boogie all the time. And at some point, Boogie, I think, that's, I stopped watching, but occasionally I'd check. And I know Boogie moved. I'm not sure he moved out of state, or if he just moved inside the state he was to a house, Boogie had bypass surgery to lose weight, and he lost a lot of weight. He got married for a short period of time, but the guys whose video, and of course others, but the guys whose video was on YouTube, the podcast yesterday, is the guy who attacked Boogie, and he knew how to how to hurt him, and he said things about about Boogie being married, and then about the divorce, and just created stuff. And anyway, Boogie's trying to answer back, which doesn't do any good. And like I said, if you have something that bothers you, probably that's just a good idea, unless you are very, very strong and very, very confident or something, which very few people are. Don't get involved in this fighting back and forth situation, because there are people who are ruthless and only care about, generating views, and they'll do anything to generate generate these traffic. If you had something, which would be, if you had something, I hope nobody ever knows about such and such. And the other party finds out about it, then that's what they're going to use on you. If there was something like, okay, well, I was molested as a child or something like that. Whatever the thing is that is just horrible for you, the other side will find out about it if they do, and they're going to use that against you in the most worst, ways or whatever. So anyway, Boogie was done pretty good. Boogie also, he told his story, his life, and then he would recommend people, to get, see a psychiatrist, see a counselor, don't do what I did, this type of stuff. So he had pretty good support from a lot of people who saw that, hey, he was trying to help, But anyway, so this one guy who was just, ruthless in attacking Boogie. The guy said that, I forget, there was a bunch of stuff going on, I guess, and I skipped all that. I just pop in, I don't know, once every once every 2 or 3 months or something to see what was the current thing. And so about the time that I popped in to see what's going on, I think Boogie had moved a lot of his stuff. He was not posting as much on YouTube, and he thought something else would be better, and he thought he could leave this stuff behind, some of this stuff behind him. No, you can't. These people are like sharks or something or other. So when I finally checked back in, the guy who was just using Boogie to generate and stirring up people, and then those people were fighting, and all this was just helping this one guy, and I'm sure some other people were getting, because they'd be YouTube videos or something where they would, or on some other site, talking about, hey, Boogie or somebody else, So anyway, then this guy tells Boogie that he is going to come down there to, I think, Arkansas. And Boogie says, don't do that. Please don't do that. I see a psychiatrist regularly. I am taking several, psychiatric medications. I'm, whatever, please leave me alone. Now, in the past, a little bit, when this stuff started up, Boogie was like, he was a victim, but at the same time, it was generating traffic, a little bit of traffic, a lot of traffic. And so in a way, but so anyway, this guy says, I'm coming down there. And Boogie says, don't, go through a whole thing of like, please don't, So this guy goes down to, let's say, Arkansas. And he gets, I'm not sure how he was using his cell phone, so I'm not sure if he was going into a live, feed, or if it was, how, but anyway. So he's at the mall down the street from where Boogie lives. And now I didn't follow all this in great detail. I just happened to catch it at the time that was kind of crucial, So if I'm wrong a little bit, I'm not being deliberately wrong. I'm just, recounting a little bit that I saw. Anyway, this guy, gets Boogie on the phone, I guess, sending a video and saying, I'm down the street at your mall. You'll recognize here's the mall. You should recognize it. It's right down the street from you. I'll be at your, and so Boogie is, please don't. Please, I really, I'm fragile. Please don't do this. Please just leave me alone. And then the guy shows up at his house, at Boogie's house, and he's making a video of this. This guy is pounding on his door. And I can't even come up with the words and the things that this guy said, but he was yelling, come on out, you pedophile, you, I mean, he just went through, I don't even know, I know what the words mean, but he's just pounding, and Boogie is, inside saying, please just leave me alone, please. And the guy says, no, you got to come out, you pedophile, a whole bunch of other words, yelling him, outside this guy's house. Lived in a, nice neighborhood there, looked like from what you could see. Boogie comes to the door with a gun, a revolver, and says, leave, something like that. And the guy says, I'm not leaving, or something like that. And Boogie shoots the gun off in the air, and the guy leaves. I think he probably called the police. I'm not sure Boogie called, but anyway, I think the guy probably called the police. And the police show up. They arrest Boogie. He fired it off in the air. Luckily, there was no school around. If there'd been a school within range, because when a bullet goes up, it comes down. There are quite a few people that are killed. I don't know how in these Arabic countries or whatever you see, not just Arabic countries, what would the other ones be? Where somebody's funeral, they're shooting, rifles up in the air. It's a funeral, it's a wedding, they're shooting gun. And how they don't wipe out everybody with the bullets that are coming back down, I don't know. But luckily for Boogie, there was not a school within range. If there had been a school within range, now he wasn't shooting at this guy, and he wasn't shooting at anybody. He shot it up in the air. It doesn't matter. So, but Boogie was lucky there wasn't a school. They'd have had it on, I'm not sure what category that would come under. But anyway, it cost Boogie getting a lawyer, and they're not cheap. And of course, he was arrested. Boogie was arrested, put in a cell for a while. I think he had to have, when they was checked in at the police station, and they probably had to, he's had bypass surgery, but he, for a man who's, grossly overweight still, he talked about that. That was not a pleasant thing for him. And he was also gravely, he didn't know, what's going to happen next. He'd never been arrested before. He didn't know what was going to happen next. He didn't know if his lawyer was going to be able to get him out and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, it cost Boogie a lot of money. And I think he said that, the ruling or something was, that the judge put out, okay, you're not going to prison, but you're on notice here. If there's anything else like this that happens, you're going to go to prison. And Boogie would not do well in prison. So anyway, back to the end, wrap this thing up. I was so depressed when I saw that. What it is this YouTube issued an announcement, that okay, you can now do podcasts. And this one guy, especially the guy that's so horrible, immediately, of course, he had material and stuff. They're doing videos all the time, and plus he had material and all, and he has, he's making enough money. He has, I don't know, audio tech and video tech and just all kinds of stuff. So he got his thing on immediately, and then I don't know how long it took. Apparently not long. Apparently, YouTube went like, oh fuck, why didn't we think of this? And then they probably sent out immediately, hey, you're violating, all of our, standards that we have, all of our things. You cannot do this here. So YouTube looks okay. I guess sometimes I wonder why when YouTube announce some new thing, and sometimes it'll say, well, we're rolling out to a few people. And I'm thinking, come on, roll it out so I can get it right away. But maybe they're right, roll it out to a few people and see what happens. But I'm just so glad, okay, we got the old YouTube back, and there is podcast, and it looks to me like, the Young Turks, and that's recovery, and all these different things. They look okay, So the end of the world hasn't come. Oops, by the way, if you haven't seen it, now they've been doing this for a while. I don't know which one of the YouTube or which one of the internet, it's not Twitter, I don't think, and I can't keep track of all these people. Got to remember back when I was like the person that started it, started this stuff. I was around before any of these people were. But anyway, this Shorts, one of these places, online someplace. Started doing these shorts. And I don't know what the length is, 2 minutes or something like that, very short. And I told somebody when they was on these other sites, I don't like that. I don't like that. I didn't really look at them, I don't like that. And then, of course, I also said I couldn't do something like that. It takes me 2 minutes just to say, who I am and where I'm at. And so anyway, then YouTube had adopted the shorts. And then I've seen some really good ones. There are some people who can make a 2 minute video and it's good. I can't. Like I said, take me 10 minutes just to say who I am. And I do repeat myself, yes, I know that. And that's like, I think I have to repeat myself and come back around to get people to understand some of this stuff sometime. But anyway, YouTube set up this shorts, and I haven't posted a YouTube short, but I have found some people that can really make a good video in 2 minutes, and I'm totally blown away by the ability to do that. I can't do that. I'll probably try one of these days. Maybe I'll come up with something, but I don't think so. So anyway, thank you for watching. Subscribe or thumbs up or whatever. Thank you very, very much for watching. Okay. Let's see, where's the 36 minutes? I didn't think I went that long. I'm sorry.